Hello, this is Mark from Sinewave, and this is going to be a pickup from our last video, Modem Updates Part 2. The first, Part 1, we went over the default best practice way of doing modem updates in groups. If one fails, then we can pull those logs and then find out which router failed out of the group, and then a way or a mechanism to update those groups within network interfaces, which is within devices here. So today we're going to cover in part 2, we're going to cover what if that does not work either. And so for that, we're going to utilize either remote UI or we're going to do it through local UI. The difference between remote and local, obviously, is local you're actually connected to the router itself via Wi-Fi or via LAN cable. And then remote UI, we can do that through NCM or NetCloud Manager here, and that would be done under the remote function. So in order for the remote function to work, first of all, we need to make sure that we have it enabled here under Remote Connect. If not, you will not be able to perform that function. And so with that, we were using router 2 here, or R1900 router 2. So we'll first start off in doing it remotely. Now, when you do and we will click on device UI, by the way, and then open device UI. When we do this, it's going to take a minute because it's going to try to establish a TLS 2.0 tunnel. So that oftentimes will take a while. And side note, for those of you that do configuration with this window like this, is tiny, make sure you click on this and you can open it up a little bit further. So we'll pause here, let this open up. You'll be presented with the main screen as if you're logged in locally to the device. You would put in your username, password, and then we'll click login. Now within here, we can go down to system, and then we can go down to system control, modem firmware, and notice we can see each one of these, right? So this is really nice. If this one I do know has been updated, so let's show you what that looks like. We can perform a check. It's going to do a check on it, and it's going to say, oh, hey, it's up to date. We can do a check on these just to make sure. Yep, they're up to date. Who uses Bell? I don't know. Maybe that's an older thing. We don't use that really here in the States. Anyhow, we can do a check on T-Mobile. Now, these should be relatively accurate. The reason why I did that is to show you that sometimes it is not accurate because we may have just done them. So that's important because maybe you did a modem update through groups and it updated some of these and some of these failed, right? So maybe we're going in here to say, hey, we have a failed one. We know which router it is. It's not taking it in the network interfaces. And I know when I did the generic modem firmware, it said everything was successful, but when I look in here, it said upgrade available. So we just did a double check on that, make sure, okay, yeah, hey, it is up to date. Let's move on. So let's do T-Mobile here. So we'll hit upgrade. Notice you get this percentage bracket or bar. This is really nice. You don't get this in NCM. You cannot see this status only through the local UI. So this is another means that you can log in and do this. Now, I've seen some people, for whatever reason, they had issues with doing the modem update through NCM, but it did work in here. I did not get to deep dive that issue to figure out why, but we know that this did solve the problem. So we'll do a quick check on that. And notice it's up to date. That was pretty fast, but we can see that. Now in groups, when you're doing NCM, you'll notice it takes a long time. You're like, why is it taking so darn long? It's actually going through each router. So this one's a single router that we're doing. We can see it working. It's pretty quick. I have a great connection tied to that router itself, so it's very fast. But groups will take a little bit longer because depending on how many routers you're doing, it's not going to show you that status until much later on in the process. So this is just another way to do it. We can hold off here, and what I want to show you is if we're tied to the router itself, it will look identical. So this is if I went and I'm connected locally to the router through either Wi-Fi on that router, or if I'm tied through the LAN cable, we can do it that way. It looks identical because it is identical. System control, and then modem firmware. Notice we're back at the same spot. So that's another way to do it. I know this has worked in the past for several clients, so this is just one other tool in your tool belt that works. And on the next one, we're going to show the next video, we're going to show how to do this if, hey, you know what, maybe you don't have a good connection at all. Maybe remoting into this device is not really an option because the cell quality is so bad. Maybe it could be like it's in a building and you cannot pull this car out, this vehicle out, or whatever the case. Maybe you just have bad cell reception where you're at. That does happen. I've seen that in the past based upon different circumstances. Cellular was not an option, and then getting a cable out to the vehicle or getting a cable out to this device was also very cumbersome, or maybe just not an option either. Or maybe your cell reception is decent and you can remote in, but for some reason this process here, upgrading it through the web, doesn't work. We'll cover that in the next video and in part 3, so see you there.